For 6 whole weeks, Dr. Dolittle and his friends sailed on and on across the vast rolling sea. A little swallow flew ahead of their ship, guiding them every step of the way. At night, she carried a tiny lantern so they wouldn't lose her in the darkness. People on other ships that passed by saw the light and thought it must be a shooting star. As they sailed further and further south, the air grew warmer and warmer. Polynesia the parrot, Chi-Chi the monkey, and the crocodile absolutely loved the hot sun. They would run around the deck, laughing and peering over the side of the ship, eagerly trying to spot Africa. But the pig, the dog, and the owl Tutu weren't so fond of the heat. They spent most of their time at the back of the ship, sitting in the shade of a big barrel with their tongues hanging out, sipping lemonade to stay cool. Dab Dab the duck had her own way of beating the heat. She would simply jump into the sea and swim behind the ship. Whenever the top of her head got too warm, she'd dive under the ship and pop up on the other side. This clever trick also helped her catch herrings on Tuesdays and Fridays, which was a big help. Everyone on the boat ate fish on those days to make their supply of beef last longer for the long journey. One day, as they got close to the equator, a group of flying fishes approached their ship. They zipped up to the side and asked Polynesia if this was Dr. Dolittle's vessel. When she confirmed it was, the fishes expressed their relief. They said the monkeys back in Africa were getting very worried, thinking he might never arrive. Polynesia asked them how much further they had to go, and the flying fishes told her it was only 55 miles to the coast of Africa. The end of their journey was finally in sight. Not long after, a whole school of porpoises came dancing through the waves. They too swam up to the ship and asked Polynesia if this was the boat of the famous doctor. When they heard that it was, they were delighted and asked if the doctor needed anything for the rest of his trip. Polynesia thought for a moment and said, "Yes. As a matter of fact, we've just run out of onions." The porpoises replied, "There's an island not far from here where wild onions grow tall and strong. Keep going straight, we'll go get some for you and catch up." And with a splash, the porpoises dashed away through the sea. It wasn't long before the crew saw them again, speeding up from behind. They were dragging huge nets made of seaweed, and these nets were filled to the brim with fresh, wild onions. The very next evening, just as the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in beautiful colors, the doctor said, "Get me the telescope, Cheech. Our journey is nearly over. We should be able to see the shores of Africa very soon." About half an hour later, they all thought they could see something in the distance. It looked like it might be land, but as the sky grew darker and darker, it became harder to be sure. Then, without warning, a great storm rolled in, thunder boomed and lightning flashed across the sky. The wind howled with incredible force and rain poured down in torrents. The waves grew so high they crashed right over the deck of the boat, soaking everything. Suddenly, there was a tremendous bang. The ship jolted to a stop and rolled over onto its side. "What happened?" asked the doctor, rushing up from downstairs. "I'm not sure," said Polynesia, "but I think we're shipwrecked. Tell the duck to get out and see what's going on." So Dab-Dab bravely dived down into the churning waves. When she came back up, she had grim news. They had struck a rock. There was a massive hole in the bottom of the ship, water was rushing in, and they were sinking fast. "We must have run into Africa," the doctor said with a sigh. "Dear me, dear me. Well, we must all swim to land." But there was a problem. Chi-Chi, the monkey, and Gub-Gub the pig didn't know how to swim. "Get the rope," Polynesia squawked. "I told you it would come in handy. Where's that duck? Come here, Dab-Dab. Take this end of the rope, fly to the shore, and tie it onto a palm tree. We'll hold the other end here on the ship. Then those who can't swim can climb along the rope until they reach the land. That's what you call a lifeline." And so, thanks to Polynesia's quick thinking, everyone made it safely to the shore. Some swam, some flew, and those who couldn't swim carefully climbed along the rope, even managing to bring the doctor's trunk and handbag with them. But the ship was lost forever. With the big hole in its bottom, the rough sea quickly beat it to pieces against the rocks. And soon its timbers were just scattered debris floating away on the waves. They all took shelter from the lingering storm in a nice dry cave they found high up in the cliffs. When the sun finally came out the next morning, they went down to the sandy beach to dry themselves and their belongings. "Dear old Africa," sighed Polynesia, looking around with a happy expression. "It's so good to be back. Just think it'll be 169 years tomorrow since I was last here, and it hasn't changed a bit. Same old palm trees, same old red earth, same old black ants. There's no place like home." And the others noticed she had tears in her eyes. She was so overjoyed to see her country once again. Just then, the doctor realized something was missing. His high hat. It must have been blown into the sea during the storm. Dab-Dab, ever helpful, immediately went out to look for it. Before long, she spotted it, a long way off, floating on the water like a tiny toy boat. But as she flew down to retrieve it, she saw something surprising. One of the white mice from Puddleby was sitting inside the hat, looking very frightened. "What are you doing here?" asked the duck. "You were told to stay behind in Puddleby." "I didn't want to be left behind," squeaked the mouse. "I wanted to see what Africa was like. I have relatives here, you see. So I hid in the baggage and was brought onto the ship with the biscuits. When the ship sank, I was terribly frightened because I can't swim very far. I swam as long as I could, but I soon got exhausted and thought I was going to sink. And then, just at that moment, the old man's hat came floating by, and I climbed into it because I didn't want to drown it." So the duck carefully picked up the hat with the little mouse inside and brought it back to the doctor on the shore. Everyone gathered around to have a look at the tiny, unexpected traveler. "That's what you call a stowaway," said Polynesia, nodding wisely, as they were trying to find a comfortable spot in the trunk for the white mouse to travel. Chi-Chi the monkey suddenly said, "I hear footsteps in the jungle." They all fell silent and listened intently. Soon, a man came down out of the woods and approached them. He asked what they were doing there. "My name is John Dolittle, MD," said the doctor politely. "I have been asked to come to Africa to cure the monkeys who are sick. You must all come before the king. the man said firmly. What king? Asked the doctor, a little impatiently, as he didn't want to waste any time. The king of the Jolliginki, the man answered. All these lands belong to him, and all strangers must be brought before him. Follow me. So they gathered up their baggage once more and followed the man, leaving the beach behind and venturing deep into the jungle. Their African adventure had truly begun. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more adventures with Dr. Dolittle. See you next time.